In this lesson, we have a number of goals that we want to accomplish. First is for you to be able to set up a Pro Tools session for recording audio. The second is to make sure you know how to create and configure a click track. Third, to record audio onto tracks in your session. Fourth, to be able to recognize clips and whole file clips, and what they are, the differences between the two. And lastly, how to organize your clips and audio files after recording to minimize clutter and optimize your session. The place that we can look inside of Pro Tools to help us determine the room or capability of each of our hard drives is the disk space window, which is located under the Window tab, Disk Space. You can click on that and you can see a visual representation of what you have available on each of your hard drives. So that you can see right now, I have 74 gig that is available. So not much left available on that particular hard drive. Also, you can see that 74 gig would give me 10,000 minutes of recording time. So here's my 4 available hard drives right now, the percentages of those drives that are available to place data on, and how many minutes I'm going to get out of each of those drives. Once you have decided you're satisfied with the disk space requirements that you have available, then you're ready to start preparing to actually record. One of the first things that I think is important to do is to add a click track. So I'm going to delete the click track I have in this session right now. And this may be a little bit of a review, and if not, then good thing we're covering it. We can add a click track by going up to the track drop-down menu and select click track. Essentially what that does is that adds a mono auxiliary input track to our session, puts a click instrument on that track as an insert, and names the track click. So by selecting track tab and create click track, we are doing all of that in one instance. We can also change the accented or unaccented values here in our click virtual instrument. We can do that by moving these accented or unaccented sliders. Accented beats will occur on the downbeats of the bars. Unaccented beats will occur on every other beat of the bar. So if I play this right now for you, you can hear they're about the same volume. They're 2 different pitches, but they're about the same volume. So I could turn the unaccented down, or I could maybe, bring that up. So a variety of things that I could do to change how I'm hearing or perceiving the volume of the click. We can also go up here to the factory default menu, and we can select different types of clicks. To be honest, I prefer the MPC click. You get less bleed, and I like the sound of it better for recording. We want it unaccented. We can change that. So that's basically how you set up a click in Pro Tools. We can also go to the click and count off dialog box. We can get there by going up here to Setup and click and count off options. This dialog box contains information about how our click and our count off options will respond. So we can set up our click track to only play during play and record, to maybe only play during record, or only play during a count off. In the click and count off options dialog box, we can select an output for the MIDI data in case we want to trigger some type of external virtual instrument that's playing our click track, or some other external hardware device that we're using to generate our click. So we can have our output for our MIDI data selected right here, as well as selecting the MIDI note we would like to have trigger our click here, as well as the velocities and or the duration of the click. You'll also note that these values can be changed by just clicking on your MIDI keyboard. Down here we can set our count off options. If we'd like 2 bar or 1 bar, or only to count off during a recording. So that's where we set our click and count off options, is in this dialog box. As you learned in an earlier tutorial, we need to add tracks to our session in order to record on them. So in this case, I'm going to add a new track since I don't have any audio tracks to record on. I'm going to add a new track by using the shortcut Shift-Command-N, also found under the track menu, New, Shift-Command-N to add new tracks. I'm going to add 1 mono track to this session. Now, once we have named our track, then we want to set up our track to be able to record onto it. And we do that by clicking on our input and output section here in Pro Tools. What we want to make sure of is that our audio input selector is looking in the right location for our particular audio signal. In this case, I'm recording from input number 12. So if I select input number 12 here, that's going to be receiving the same signal as my vocal track here. So that's what I want for now. Now the only thing left to do is place the track in record enable mode. So as soon as I click that, you can see I'm getting some signal down here now. So it's receiving signal, and I'm ready to record. Before I actually record, one of the things that I want to make sure of is that I have sufficient signal being sent to Pro Tools. Over here, you can see my signal is up here into the yellow, and occasionally it gets up towards this gold section. That's about where we want it. We don't really want it being up here very often. We want it generally in the yellow section. So in this case, I could turn up my vocal microphone a little bit to get a little more level or gain to this particular track. All of that's done outside of Pro Tools. You would use your microphone preamp gain control to gain up your signal so that you had additional level going to Pro Tools. One thing that's important to realize is that the fader control here only controls the output volume. It does not control the input volume. We could also, at this particular point in time, choose our pan location if we wanted to. Right now, I'm not going to worry about that. And then we're ready to record. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and record the outputs of this signal. So I'm going to change my setup a little bit. And I'm going to record onto this track here. Okay, so now I'm ready to record. So a couple of different options. I can select F12 on the keyboard, or I can select number 3 on the 10 keypad, both of which will start my recording. So now I'm actually recording, and you can see the audio signal being sent to this particular track. So when we have finished recording, then what we want to do is stop, and we can do that by pressing the space bar, and then make sure our track is no longer in record enable mode. And so we'll do that right now. We'll stop and turn the record enable button off. Now we can actually listen to our recording. So now I'm actually recording, and you can see the audio signal being sent to this particular track. Obviously, I have my click on, so if I was playing a musical instrument, I would have a tempo that I could follow. So that's how you record in Pro Tools. Quite an easy process. You just have to make sure that things are set up properly.